So Apple just had their brand new Apple Day for the month of March. Their quarterly, usually event that they have every March. They usually release hardware at this event, and they released some pretty impressive hardware, but I'm about to show you and talk to you really quickly in the next couple moments as to why I believe these upgrades are not really for you. Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jose from PetRockMedia.com. If this type of content is something that you are interested in, whether it be photography, cinematography, gaming, just overall teching out and geeking out, new tech and whatnot, this might be the channel for you. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and punch that bell icon so that way you are notified of all the content that we post and you become a PetRock Media Army member and you get all this great content. If you don't feel like subscribing, or let's say you subscribe early on and you don't like this video, you can always unsubscribe. I mean, choice is up to you. Alright, so today is Tuesday, March the 8th, and Apple wrapped up their, I don't want to say anticipated, but their quarterly kind of every year, every March event. And this event had some pretty interesting hardware that was released. Obviously, they're going to upgrade a lot of their older tech, a lot of their older lineups. So they upgraded the iPhone SE to have a little bit more power. They upgraded the iPad Air, which they say is on par with the iPad Pro, given that the chip that they're putting in there, as well as the ability to have LTE, 5G LTE on there. But we all know Apple does not like to cannibalize their products, so we know it's just around the corner where they're going to put a higher processor chip in the iPad Pro, the larger iPad Pro, since the iPad Air is being looked at as an iPad Pro, but it's not labeled as one. So again, if you follow Apple, you know they're not going to allow that to happen, right? They're going to have to give you a reason to buy the more expensive, larger screen. I can almost guarantee you it's going to be obviously more RAM, faster processor, maybe the M1 Ultra that was announced today, spoiler alert, but obviously they're going to crank out a beast of an iPad Pro and a beast of a price. So keep that in mind when you're making that decision of, should I buy the new iPad Air? It might fit your needs. It fits almost 99% of everybody's needs, because we all know what they show on those infomercials does not necessarily reflect your own workflow. But again, that's something that you're interested in. The new iPad Air is definitely one to definitely check out, especially if you're operating on maybe a first gen iPad Pro or an older iPad Air. Now, before we move on, I just want to, be very truthful and just bluntly honest with you all. I am a huge Apple fanboy. I mean, call me a fanboy, call me whatever you want. I just said it right now. But I have a ton of Apple gear, from obviously got a watch, got an iPhone 12 Pro Max, not a 13, a 12 Pro Max, maxed out, largest capacity you can get. Big phones. I like the much larger iPad Pros as well. So I have the iPad Pro 2nd generation, which is what, 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So I have quite a bit of Apple products. Right now, to the right of me is my Mac Mini setup. I have a MacBook Pro, Apple everywhere right now. The computer behind me is a PC. However, again, a lot of my editing, a lot of my photo work is done on a Mac Mini. Love Apple, love Macs. I am just approaching today's video from a complete and utter common sense approach of, is this type of tech usable and needed for you? Not so much usable, but is it something that you as an everyday tech consumer and everyday YouTuber might need? Spoiler, no. Now, many of you may not know, but a lot of my videos that I've edited and spit out on this channel have been edited with that Mac Mini. Now, it's the newer Mac Mini that has the M1 chip in it, but it is the newer Mac Mini. It went away from the gray and went back to that silverish color. And they pretty much took that exact same form factor and just increased the girth of it, if you will, and created the Mac Studio. Obviously, the processor in that M1 Ultra is a beast of a chip. I mean, going back and just looking at all those specs, I'm going to leave them down below. I'm going to leave a link also to the live event. Amazing specs, right? And if we know anything about Apple, is that most of the time when it comes to these specs, especially once they release the M chip, the M1 chip, a lot of those data reports and just their overall specs and facts on, processor increase, things like that, they're pretty spot on. Right, we didn't know how the M1s were going to react, and then now we have them in our hands, a couple years ago, and they just fly through and breeze through editing, photography, things like that. Which leads me to kind of the topic of today's video, and is this technology that's in the Mac Studio worth it for you? Now, obviously, I'm going to say 99% of you who watch this channel do not need all of that. A Mac Mini, even the older Mac Minis with the Intels, I can sometimes be on board with if you get it at a super good deal. But because the M1 Mac Minis are going to probably go down in price, because they're most likely going to release some type of Mac Mini Pro, if you will, to kind of fit that middle point of the Mac Studio and the Mac Mini. So most likely that's coming in the future. But the Mac Studio, right? Is that something that you absolutely need? No. Okay, a lot of us out there still photograph with lower megapixel cameras, right? We're not shooting 8K, and that thing was stating, and it was flouting, that it could do 8 streams of 8K footage. That's insane. That's incredible. That's insane. Don't know how many of us YouTubers are shooting multiple 8K camera angles, right? So again, right there, I mean, it's a great thing to talk about, but again, we as normal YouTubers and normal content creators don't need that. I think today's Apple announcement was kind of going a little old school and going to that professional out there that needs all that power and wants to have the latest and greatest, and they have a business that can utilize this as a business expense, write it off, purchase the latest and greatest gear, move on until the next thing comes out, right? Which we all know, as I mentioned at the beginning, Apple does not cannibalize their products. They will release something even better, some type of, you know, maybe desktop replacement, going back to maybe the older version. I thought it was going to be one of the old trash can versions of the Mac Pro when they were showing the silhouettes when they were releasing the commercial for it, and then it was kind of like a larger Mac Mini. But again, all the specs on there, 128 gigabytes of RAM. You do not need that much to surf the web, things like that. And again, I know what you're thinking. This was not meant for that user, and I get it, but a lot of us are going to be salivating and drooling over the fact that, wow, I can have all that processing power and computing power with such a small machine. Which you're not wrong, but again, do you need it? At $4,000 starting price, I could definitely tell you to put that money into gear that's going to increase your craft. If it's a camera, buy maybe an external monitor if you don't have one. Buy an actual lens that you're going to be utilizing that maybe you've been renting and you can, you know, now afford that with that money. Invest in a better camera if you do photography. Maybe invest in a macro lens if you're trying to take that macro photography to the next level. I would personally take that money and invest it in gear related to your craft and not necessarily a computer that's going to maybe increase your productivity workflow just a little bit. Now, again, to each their own. Obviously, there are going to be people out there that absolutely need this, where seconds and seconds count. Deadlines matter. You work for a professional firm and you're needing to get your content out quickly. But for most of us who have the time to spit out a video, let the rendering go through, an old school Mac Mini M1 is totally going to be well worth it. That wraps up this video, everybody. I just wanted to give you my overall impressions of today's announcements. Yes, they're amazing. Yes, they're great. Does everybody need it? Absolutely not. The iPad Air is going to be enough for almost everybody out there to browse the web, interact with YouTube, do some photo editing. Capture One for iPad is coming. If you haven't checked out that video, just Google in YouTube, Capture One for iPad. That's coming. So for all you Fuji shooters out there, it's going to be some great new software that you're going to be able to utilize on your iPad. So the Air is going to be awesome. Thin, lightweight. All you're focusing on is just having a more mobile workflow, then the new iPad Air is definitely going to be something to look at. And the price is pretty competitive, and now they're including LTE 5G in there as well as an obviously added price, but again, that is going to be an additional option you can now take advantage of. Let me know what you all think down in the comments. Let me know if I'm 100% wrong. Let me know if you unsubscribed. You subscribed at the beginning, now you unsubscribe. Who knows? All I want to know is what you thought about today's Apple announcement, and do you think you're interested in any of the amazing tech that was released today from Apple? Didn't even talk about the display. Don't get me started on the display, but can almost guarantee if you add the VESA mount, you add that counterweighted move, and that monitor is going to be well over 2K. Don't need that. We'll never really need something that expensive. The monitor behind me costs $1,200. That's an LG ultra wide, and I thought that was expensive. Got another LG monitor over here, a 32-inch that cost me $400, renewed on Amazon. Does an amazing job. It's super color corrected, color balanced, and color calibrated, and everything looks beautiful. $400 used on Amazon. Think about that. But again, guys, I'm going to cut this video off right here. Thank each and every one of you for stopping on by. I greatly appreciate the support. I love you all. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.